Chapter 1. The Beginning of the Journey. Desperate Symptoms. Emma was 50 years old, but she looked much older. It was an ordinary morning, yet she felt that something was wrong. Upon waking, the first sign was the heat that coursed through her body like a wave crashing on the shore. A wave of heat so intense that it made her skin sweat, her heart race, and her mind foggy. She got out of bed slowly, feeling as if something inside her body had been lost. Gradually, insomnia began to take over her nights. She spent hours tossing and turning in bed, unable to fall asleep, thinking about everything she could no longer control. It was as if her mind was in constant turmoil, with new worries taking over every second. The anxiety gave no respite, and what once seemed like a small problem was now becoming a constant in her life. The physical exhaustion she felt during the day was not enough to calm the emotional storm that consumed her nights. But the hardest part of all was the loneliness. Emma could no longer connect with the people around her. Her family, her friends, they all seemed to be in a world apart while she sank deeper and deeper. When she looked in the mirror, she no longer saw the strong and confident woman she used to be. She saw a stranger, a tired, invisible woman, as if she were slowly disappearing before her own eyes. The little things that once brought her joy, like making coffee in the morning or watching a movie with her daughter, no longer made sense. What was happening to her? The body that had always been healthy and full of energy seemed to have given up the fight, and her mind was growing dark and weary. The doctor's words, "It's just menopause," didn't make sense. What they failed to see was the emotional pain hiding behind the physical symptoms. Emma didn't want to be just another woman who simply accepted everything. She didn't want to be someone who let life pass her by while her body and mind fell apart. That day, Emma looked at the phone on the table and had a dark thought. She imagined what would happen if she disappeared. If it all just ended. The idea of not feeling anything anymore, no pain, no anguish, seemed tempting. But something inside her wavered. At that moment, she heard a soft noise coming from the door and saw her daughter, Sophia, walk in. Sophia, always so full of life, now had eyes marked with worry. She had been observing her mother from afar, unsure of how to help her. Emma could no longer hide her pain from Sophia, but at the same time she didn't want her daughter to see how fragile she had become. Sophia sat down beside her on the bed. The silence between them was heavy, but Sophia's gaze was enough. He knew. He felt it. "Mom, you don't have to go through this alone," Sophia said, her voice trembling but firm. Emma looked at her, trying to hold back the tears. She didn't know what to do anymore, but in that moment something shifted. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to ask for help. But where could she find help? How could anyone understand what she was going through? What do you do when doctors say everything is normal? Sophia, with the determination of someone who knows what it means to love deeply, looked at her mother and in a soft but purposeful voice said, "I'll help you. We'll find someone who understands what you're going through. No, you're not doing this alone. I'll take you to a doctor. It'll be okay, Mom. It'll be okay." What Emma didn't know was that this simple decision, this small word of support, would lead her on a journey she could never have imagined. What Emma couldn't foresee was that this trip to the doctor's office would change her life forever. But she was about to discover something that traditional medicine had never told her. Something that could finally ease her pain, transform her mind, and bring back the woman she thought she had lost. However, the road ahead would not be easy. There were more challenges to face, more difficult choices to make. What will Emma discover at her appointment? And how will she react to this new possibility for life? Don't miss the next chapter of Emma's story, as she will need all her strength and courage to accept the help that is about to come. Chapter 2: The Breaking Point, Emotional Collapse. After her conversation with Sophia, Emma was still uncertain about what lay ahead. While the idea of seeking help was a faint ray of light, she couldn't see a clear path forward. However, her daughter's determination was undeniable. Sophia, always so protective and loving, had already scheduled the appointment, and Emma, too drained to protest, agreed to go. After all, what did she have to lose? Maybe just one more failed attempt. On the day of the appointment, Emma felt a glimmer of hope, but anxiety consumed her. She looked at herself in the mirror before leaving and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her skin was lifeless, dark circles carved under her eyes, and her gaze, it was empty. She no longer had the energy, not even to smile. She didn't know how to hide the pain eating her alive from the inside out. When they arrived at the doctor's office, Emma was surprised by the warm and calming environment. The doctor's office was bright, with plants and books scattered around, and soft music playing in the background. It was nothing like the cold, impersonal clinics she was used to. Sophia guided her mother to the reception desk, and after a few minutes, a smiling doctor called them in. The doctor introduced herself with a handshake that was firm but gentle. She was of average height, with dark brown hair and calm eyes that immediately inspired trust. "Hello, Emma. I'm Dr. Ava. I'm glad you came. Let's talk about what you've been feeling." Still hesitant, Emma sat down in the chair across from the doctor, trying to conceal the anguish still gripping her chest. Dr. Ava, without rushing, sensed how apprehensive Emma was. "If you'd like, we can start slowly," Dr. Ava said softly. "I specialize in integrative medicine, which means we'll look at your body and mind holistically. I'm not just here to treat symptoms. I want to understand the root causes of everything you're experiencing." Emma glanced at Sophia, who gave her a slight nod of encouragement. She sat up a little straighter, but the fear remained. "Hey, Dr. Ava. I'm just so tired. Physically, mentally, emotionally. I don't know what to do anymore. I have the hot flashes, the insomnia. I feel like I'm disappearing." Dr. Ava listened intently, her serene expression unhurried as Emma spoke. When Emma finished, the doctor responded calmly. "I understand what you're saying, Emma. And what you're going through is far more common than you might think. Menopause isn't just about physical symptoms. It deeply impacts your emotional and psychological well-being as well. What's happening is that, with the drop in hormones, your body is entering a transition phase. Unfortunately, conventional medicine often doesn't take a full view of how this affects every aspect of your life." Emma furrowed her brow. "Transition?" It didn't feel like a mere transition. It felt like an internal storm. "I want you to know that, in integrative medicine, we treat you as a whole person. Not just with medications, but also with nutrition, exercise, supplements, and emotional wellness techniques. We aim to restore balance naturally and effectively, rather than just addressing the symptoms. If you're willing, I'd like to walk this journey with you step by step." Emma looked at Sophia, whose eyes brimmed with hope. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma thought that maybe, just maybe, there was something she could do besides endure. Dr. Ava, with the gentle understanding of someone who deeply comprehends another's struggles, continued. "We'll start with something very important: bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. You may have heard of it, but let me explain how it works and why it can be so beneficial for you. Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy is a way to restore the hormones your body is no longer producing, but in the most natural way possible, respecting your body. The idea isn't to replace but to replenish, so you can regain energy, vitality, and emotional balance." Emma sat silently for a moment. The doctor's words touched something deep within her, as if someone had finally seen her, truly understood the pain and fears she had been carrying for so long. "But I don't want you to feel overwhelmed," Dr. Ava added with a warm smile. "We'll also focus on other areas, adjusting your diet to help you feel better every day and incorporating exercise to balance your body and mind. Don't worry, we'll take everything at your pace." Emma took a deep breath. Could this really work? Before ending the session, Dr. Ava asked one final question. "Are you ready to start this journey, Emma? I want you to know that, with patience and dedication, we can restore your quality of life. It won't happen overnight, but I promise that in time you'll feel different. You'll feel like you're in control again." Emma looked at Sophia, feeling a spark of hope ignite within her. Her daughter smiled back, as if silently understanding how much this moment meant. "Yes," Emma replied, her voice steadier than she thought possible. "I'm ready." With a new plan in place, Emma began following Dr. Ava's guidance. The bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and lifestyle changes were about to usher in a new chapter of her life. But was she truly ready to face the internal transformations that these treatments would bring? And more importantly, would she be able to stay motivated during moments of doubt and difficulty? Don't miss the next chapter of Emma's journey, where she will encounter new challenges but also discover strengths within herself that she never imagined she had. Chapter 3. A Call to Hope, the Daughter's Intervention. In the days following her appointment with Dr. Ava, Emma felt uncertain. Although she had accepted the treatment, doubts still lingered. The idea of taking bioidentical hormones and drastically changing her diet seemed like a completely new world, something far removed from the life she knew. But the desire to change was stronger than ever in her mind. She no longer wanted to live in the darkness of suffering, trapped in the anguish of watching her life slip by without any sense of control. The consultation with Dr. Ava had been like a lifeboat in the middle of a storm, and Emma was ready to sail, though the seas still seemed rough. The first major challenge she had to face was her diet. Dr. Ava had recommended a more balanced plan focused on anti-inflammatory foods, including nutrient-rich proteins. To Emma, this felt almost impossible. She had always been a woman of simple habits, never overly concerned about what she ate, and suddenly, it all seemed to require immense discipline. The hot flashes and sleepless nights persisted, making the start of her journey even harder. That's when Sophia stepped in again. That weekend, Sophia showed up with a bag full of fresh foods and natural products, real wholesome food. It was a Saturday and Emma was, as usual, standing in the kitchen, staring at an empty fridge, unsure where to start. "Mom, let's do this," Sophia said enthusiastically, placing the bag on the table. "I made a list of the recipes Dr. Ava recommended. We'll start slowly, no pressure. The idea isn't to change everything overnight, but to gradually introduce new habits." Emma looked at her daughter with a hesitant smile. "I don't know, Sophia. It feels like too much." "I know, Mom. I know. But you're not alone, remember?" Sophia kissed her forehead and began unpacking the bag. "We'll do this together. I'll help you cook. We just need to start, one step at a time." And so, Emma took her first steps toward a healthier diet. Although she resisted at first, she soon realized that fresh, balanced foods made her feel different. Meats, fruits, vegetables, nuts. Small changes that gradually began to ease the hot flashes and give her a bit more energy. However, the journey was far from smooth. Insomnia still haunted her every night. Although the bioidentical hormone treatments were starting to take effect, the symptoms were still intense. Emma would wake up in the middle of the night, sweating, her heart racing, wondering if the changes would ever truly work. Once again, Sophia stepped in. "Mom, I know this isn't easy. I know you're tired. But let's try something different. How about we start practicing yoga together? Or meditation?" Dr. Ava said the mind plays a big role in all of this. The stress, the anxiety, Let's try to ease some of it, okay? Emma wasn't convinced. How could she, amidst all the mental chaos, start something as calm as yoga? She saw herself as a woman completely out of sync with her body and didn't know how to change that. But Sophia, with her contagious energy, didn't give up. That afternoon, mother and daughter attended a beginner's yoga class together. Emma felt insecure and uncomfortable with the poses and movements. She couldn't focus. All she wanted was to close her eyes and sleep. The instructor, a calm and experienced woman, guided the class patiently. Gradually, Emma realized that yoga wasn't just about stretches or difficult poses. It was about breathing and being present in the moment. She felt a lightness in her chest that she hadn't felt in a long time. By the end of the session, lying on her mat, Emma felt oddly at peace. "I don't know, Sophia," Emma said with a shy smile. "But I think yoga makes sense. I didn't expect to feel this way. I told you." "Keep going, Mom. It won't happen overnight, but you're starting to open new doors within yourself." And indeed, Emma began to open new doors. The following weeks brought gradual relief from her discomforts, a renewed sense of energy, and the confidence that even amidst the emotional and physical turbulence of menopause, she wasn't alone. Sophia became her greatest support, not just as a daughter but as a companion on this journey, showing her that change was possible and that each day brought Emma closer to reclaiming the balance she sought. That evening, after a day full of new discoveries, Emma looked at herself in the mirror again. While challenges still lay ahead, she felt for the first time in a long while that she was seeing someone strong staring back at her. Not the woman who thought she was disappearing, but a renewed, courageous woman filled with hope. "I still have a long way to go," Emma thought. "But I'm starting to believe I can find my life again." With new habits shaping her routine, Emma began to experience noticeable improvements, but the journey was far from over. Will she manage to stay strong in moments of doubt and fatigue? And more importantly, how will the bioidentical hormone therapy impact her emotional and physical well-being in the long term? Don't miss the next chapter, where Emma will face the challenges of staying consistent on her journey, testing her inner strength and the limits of her new lifestyle. The true transformation is only just beginning. Chapter 4. Awakening and New Challenges, Discovering Strengths She Didn't Know She Had. Time passed and Emma was making progress. Although there were still difficult nights and the discomfort of menopause symptoms persisted, something was changing. The days seemed a bit easier to face. She felt somehow more present and connected to her own body. The hot flashes, though still present, were becoming less intense. They were no longer like a tsunami but more like a warm breeze that quickly passed. The insomnia, which had once consumed her for hours, was giving way to deeper, though still interrupted, sleep. There was a faint sense of balance that had once seemed impossible to achieve. But with the small victories came challenges. Each day, Emma faced a new test where her inner strength was put to the test. While she had embraced the changes suggested by Dr. Ava, the real transformation was happening in her mind, and that was the hardest part to navigate. That morning, Emma woke up feeling more tired than usual. She had followed all the guidelines, taken the hormones, eaten properly, practiced yoga and meditation with Sophia. Yet a sense of insecurity still lingered. Was she truly on the right path? Worst of all, how could she trust that this new Emma was really herself? As she sat at the breakfast table, Sophia walked into the kitchen as vibrant as ever. "Mom, how are you feeling today?" Sophia asked, her voice full of energy. Emma looked at her daughter and tried to force a smile. "I'm okay, better I guess. But I feel a bit lost, you know? Like I'm rebuilding myself but I'm not the same anymore." Sophia sat beside her, her gaze filled with understanding. "I get it, Mom. This transition isn't easy. But remember, life isn't about being the same person you were before." Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find yourself. And this Emma you're discovering might be stronger than the Emma from before. That's amazing. Emma looked at Sophia, feeling a warmth in her chest. It was hard to accept, but her daughter's words were starting to make sense. Perhaps she wasn't truly lost but rediscovering herself. She was in a process of transformation filled with doubts, fears, and above all an exploration of the unknown. Yet, Emma's biggest challenge wasn't her body or the physical changes. It was the old mental patterns she still carried. She felt remnants of self-criticism and guilt in her mind. The feeling of not being enough, of not doing enough, still haunted her. One quiet afternoon, as Emma sat in the garden with a cup of tea, she thought about her conversations with Dr. Ava. The doctor had spoken about the importance of working on the mind and how emotions directly influence physical health. Dr. Ava had suggested Emma try working on forgiveness, for herself and others, as a way to free her soul and create space for healing. I need to start forgiving myself, Emma thought. Forgive myself for all the times I didn't take care of myself, all the times I put others ahead of me. And so she began working on herself, not just physically but emotionally. She started journaling every morning, writing down her reflections, fears, and victories. She discovered something profound in the process of writing, something that helped her release some of the weight she carried. She noticed that as she wrote, her mind calmed, and she felt more connected to her body and emotions. However, not everything was resolved. The following week, Emma experienced an emotional setback. She had a fight with Sophia, a trivial argument that left Emma feeling out of control. She felt as though all the progress she had made had been undone by a single word spoken in frustration. I'm ruining everything. I'm not good enough. How can I become a new woman if I keep falling into old habits? She thought, retreating to her room, feeling an intense loneliness. But instead of losing herself in her insecurities, Emma took an important step. She picked up her phone and sent Sophia a message apologizing. I'm not perfect and I know that. But I'm trying. I just need a little patience and love. I love you, sweetheart. Sophia replied almost immediately. Mom, I know you're doing your best. And I love you too. We're in this together. Sophia's response was a relief for Emma. She realized that perfection wasn't necessary. She didn't need to be a flawless woman. She just needed to be present and allow herself to feel. The process of transformation wasn't about becoming someone different but about embracing the journey with all its ups and downs. That night, as Emma lay in bed, she felt a deep sense of relief. There was still a long road ahead, but she no longer felt so alone. She was slowly starting to rebuild herself. And perhaps the woman she was becoming would be stronger, more authentic, and more complete than any version of herself she had been before. With the acceptance that perfection isn't necessary and that healing takes patience, Emma continues her journey. However, new challenges lie ahead. Difficult decisions regarding her career, social life, and even her relationships begin to surface. How will she balance her responsibilities with the new Emma that is emerging? Don't miss the next chapter, where Emma will begin to face these difficult new choices, and her true transformation will be put to the test. Every step she takes now is a choice for her autonomy, well-being, and the life she deserves. Chapter 5. The Path to Autonomy, Difficult Choices and New Discoveries. For the first time in months, Emma woke up with a sense of lightness. The changes she had been experiencing, calmer nights of sleep, fewer hot flashes, and the energy gradually returning to her body, were signs that the hormone therapy and new habits were finally taking effect. Yet, while her body was healing, her mind still had much to process. She was slowly leaving behind the woman who had hidden in pain and fear, becoming someone more authentic and self-aware. However, new challenges lay ahead. With greater clarity, Emma's life now seemed to demand decisions she could no longer postpone. The internal changes she was undergoing began to ripple outward, influencing her choices in the external world. The first issue she had to confront was her job. For over 20 years, Emma had worked as a human resources manager at a large company. The job was stable, but lately she felt disconnected from the rigid routine, corporate problems, and constant stress. She no longer found fulfillment in her work. The emerging version of herself, full of new perspectives, was beginning to question whether she should remain in this role. One rainy afternoon, Emma met with Sophia to discuss this. They were drinking tea in the living room, and Sophia immediately noticed her mother's pensive mood, as if something heavy weighed on her mind. "Mom, you're quiet today. What's on your mind?" Sophia asked, her voice gentle. Emma let out a deep sigh. "I've been thinking, maybe it's time to change my life. I don't feel like I belong at that company anymore. My values have shifted and my energy no longer aligns with the routine I've had for so long. But at the same time, I feel so pressured to stay. I'm not sure if I'm being reckless." Sophia looked at her silently for a moment, as if taking in her mother's words. She understood that change would be difficult for Emma, but also knew that her mother was being more honest with herself than ever before. "I understand, Mom," Sophia said softly. "I think everyone reaches a point where they need to decide what really matters. What you're feeling isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign of growth. Maybe you just need the courage to take the next step. And you don't have to decide everything right now. Take it slow if you need to." Emma gave a faint smile. "I'm scared of taking a risk, of not being able to maintain our lifestyle. Of failing." Sophia took her mother's hand. "I believe you're much stronger than you think. And I'll be by your side no matter what you decide. You're doing what's best for yourself. That's already so much." Emma looked at her daughter and something shifted inside her. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she could breathe freely without the pressure to stick to a path just because it was the one she had always followed. She realized that any choice she made now would be for herself, not to please anyone else. The following week, Emma went to work as usual, but something felt different. She looked at her desk and the projects she was working on and felt emotionally detached. The job with all its demands no longer defined her. During a coffee break, Emma had a conversation that deepened her reflection. She ran into a longtime colleague and friend who, after hearing about her recent struggles, offered a suggestion that sparked something within her. "Have you ever thought about starting your own business? Maybe a consultancy focused on health and wellness management. I know you've always had an interest in that, right? You're great with people, and with what you're learning now about your own health, you could help other women, especially those going through this phase of life. This could be the start of something incredible." Emma paused to think. The idea had once seemed distant, but now, with the internal changes she was experiencing, something inside her lit up. What if she could combine her HR expertise with her newfound passion for health and wellness? What if she could help other women navigate menopause more smoothly, just as she was doing? This might be the purpose she had been searching for all along. The next day, Emma made a life-changing decision. She requested a sabbatical from her job to focus on herself and explore this new possibility. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but she also knew she now had confidence in herself and was ready to take the next step. But it wasn't just her professional life that was undergoing transformation. Emma was also reflecting on her personal life. She realized that over the years her marriage to Roberto had grown somewhat monotonous. Although they loved each other, there was a growing distance between them, likely fueled by a lack of communication and the weight of routine. One evening after dinner, Emma sat down with Roberto and initiated a conversation she had long avoided. "Roberto, I know we've been together for a long time, but I feel like things have changed. I'm changing and I need to know if you're willing to change with me." I need more emotional intimacy, more understanding, more companionship. Roberto looked at her, surprised but with an attentive expression. I've noticed it too. I love you, Emma, and I want us to go through this together. Let's talk about it more. I don't want you to feel alone on this journey. That conversation was a turning point for the couple. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. They began to communicate more openly, and Roberto committed to being more present. Emma also started investing in herself in other ways. Not just emotionally but also in her sexual life, and the affection that gradually grew stronger between them. With decisions made about her work and personal life, Emma moves forward with a new sense of purpose. But the real question now is, will she be able to turn her ideas into concrete actions? Starting her wellness consultancy will be a challenge, but also an opportunity for personal growth. More importantly, will her marriage with Roberto withstand these new changes? How will Emma balance her new role as an entrepreneur and a transformed woman while continuing to navigate the challenges of menopause? Don't miss the next chapter, where Emma will begin to face the complexities of being an entrepreneur during menopause and how this will impact her family life, relationships, and identity. Chapter 6. Transcendence, Embracing Menopause as Part of the Journey. Emma woke early that morning, as had become her habit. The first ray of sunlight streamed through the bedroom window, softly illuminating her face. She glanced at the mirror, where the woman she saw was no longer the same as she had been months ago. The lines on her face, which once bothered her, now seemed to tell stories of a rich life full of triumphs and transformations. He felt different, stronger, more authentic, more confident in her body and the woman she was becoming. Then, without warning, her phone buzzed on the bedside table. It was a message from her daughter, Sophia. Emma smiled as she read, "Mom, I've been thinking about you today. I remember how lost you were in the beginning. I saw you trying to find a solution for menopause, struggling with what you didn't understand. But now I see a transformed woman. A woman who has found her peace. I admire you so much and am so grateful for everything you've done, not just for me but for all the women learning from your journey. I love you." Sophia's words struck a deep chord in Emma. In that moment she saw her daughter, now a strong, empathetic woman, acknowledging her own growth. What had started as a silent struggle had now become a lesson that transcended generations. Emma felt a wave of emotion and gratitude for everything she had experienced up to that point. She was no longer afraid of menopause. She no longer saw this stage of life as a loss but as a renewal. Menopause was not something to fear but rather something to embrace, live through, and most importantly, celebrate. In the preceding months, Emma had faced the physical and emotional pain that came with menopause. Extreme fatigue, bodily changes, loss of libido, and anxiety attacks were just some of the challenges she confronted. But at the same time, she found solutions and answers that gave her a new path forward. Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy had provided relief, but the real transformation came from a shift in mindset. Seeking help through integrative medicine, Emma discovered an approach that treated the body as a whole, rather than just a collection of isolated parts. Meditation, yoga, healthy eating, and self-care became the pillars of her life. Emma now understood that menopause did not mean the end of her sexuality or her enjoyment of life. It was a phase of reinvention, where she could rediscover the woman she had been and was still becoming. There was no longer room for fear or the idea that her life was being interrupted. She began sharing her experience with other women, and the feedback she received was empowering. They saw in her a source of inspiration and care, a model for navigating menopause with grace and autonomy. This made her feel even more connected to her life's purpose. What Emma hadn't realized at the start of her journey was that her struggle would not remain a personal one. She now saw herself with a greater mission: helping other women break free from the idea that menopause was an end. Instead, she began guiding women to live this phase with confidence, balance, and the certainty that it's possible to flourish at any age. She created an online program, offering personalized consultations for women in transition, as well as hosting wellness workshops and events. Her work began to gain visibility and helped her connect with a community of women who, like her, wanted to live their best versions of themselves. When Emma's first clients began sharing how empowered they felt after following her guidance, she knew she was fulfilling her mission, not just as a health consultant, but as a woman who had undergone the transformation they were seeking. In her own transformation, Emma also began to reconnect with Roberto, her husband. The difficult times and uncertainties brought on by menopause had created some cracks in their relationship. But now, with self-awareness and acceptance, she felt she was entering a new phase in her marriage. That evening, as they had dinner together, Roberto looked into her eyes and said, "You're an incredible woman, Emma. I've watched you go through so much, but I've also seen you transform in ways I never imagined. I admire you deeply and am so grateful for everything you've done. For me, for our family, and most importantly, for all the women who can now count on you." With tears in her eyes, Emma held his hand and replied, "I couldn't have come this far without you, Roberto. Your love, patience, and support have been everything. I love you and I'm so grateful to have you by my side now more than ever. Together, we've gone through this transformation and it's made us stronger." Emma was no longer the insecure woman who feared menopause. She was no longer the woman who hid from her own body and the challenges it brought. She had become a renewed woman who understood that aging and change were natural parts of life. She now saw every mark and sign on her body as symbols of her strength and journey. Looking to the future, Emma knew there would still be challenges ahead, but she was prepared, not because she had all the answers, but because she had learned to face adversity with wisdom, gratitude, and self-care. With her mission clearer than ever, Emma was ready to help more women free themselves from the fear and insecurity that had once defined her own experience. And in doing so, she would continue living fully, embracing menopause as a phase of empowerment, not just for herself but for all the women walking this journey. Final reflection. This ending brings emotion, self-control, and empowerment to Emma, concluding her journey with a powerful message of acceptance and growth. The focus on menopause as a phase of renewal rather than loss is clear, and Emma becomes, in the end, not just a stronger woman but also an inspiration to others. Now, Emma can look to the future with confidence, knowing that her mission to help women is not only possible but essential for her own fulfillment. She has not only transformed her own life but is also transforming the lives of countless women around her. Did you like this story? Did you identify with it? Give your opinion in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.